104.5 The Team, your home for New York Jets football. We now talk to our buddy Matt Verderame from Fansided. Matt, you seem to be the biggest Christian Hackenberg fan out there right now. You might smell sarcasm. For anybody who hasn't seen your Twitter yet, tell us what your thoughts on Christian Hackenberg are.
I tweeted that he's one of the most overdrafted players for the last decade, and I really don't think it would have been a stretch to say that he should have not been drafted at all.
Wow. So we've heard mixed reports. You know, we've actually, Connor Hughes from NJ.com, he's missing so bad he's hitting reporters, and then we'll get like ESPN.com will fire out that he's having a great camp and everything else. You're not seeing any mixed review. It's just bad. I
just think you got to figure when these guys are in OTAs and mini camp and even part of training camp, they're throwing against air mostly. And even if they're defensive players on the field, it's no contact. It's very much just a walkthrough type of situation. And if you're a quarterback and you're completing half your throws or you're wildly missing on throws that are short, intermediate, that's a major problem. And I don't think anybody's disputed who's been there that he's been very inaccurate most of the days that they've been in OTAs and in minicamp. And if I'm the Jets, as a rookie, it would alarm me, but I'd say, okay, listen, he's got to go through. He's got to learn the playbook. He's got a lot going on. You're in your second year, and he's still throwing the ball like that. That would be cause for panic in terms of how Hackenberg's development is going.
Matt, is this kind of the Jets' fault with the way they brought him along, though?
I think it's a few things. I think, first of all, even, I did say that if he wasn't drafted, I wouldn't have had a huge issue with it. But let's say if he had been drafted in the third day, if he had been a fourth or a fifth or a sixth round pick, I think the expectations are a lot lower. But when you draft a guy in the second round and fairly high up as the Jets drafted him, you expect that guy to eventually be a starter on your team and to contribute in a meaningful way. And I think so the Jets, by overdrafting him, set him up for failure. When I was in Chicago at that draft, and when he got picked, there was a roar, an audible roar in the media room. They could not believe he was selected in the second round. And so I think that's something that you just have to consider. And the Jets, Todd Bowles is a defensive coach. And so you're going through the same problems to some degree you went through with Rex Ryan. He's not equipped to bring along a young, developmental rookie quarterback.
We've got Matt Verderame with us right now from Fansided right here on 104.5 The Team.
Matt, you wrote a column this week talking about the Buffalo Bills and some possible rifts between Brandon Beane, their new GM, and Sean McDermott. Why don't you believe this may work out at least in year one?
Well, I think it certainly could work out. My prose is basically that the Bills did things a little bit backwards this offseason. Typically, when you fire a head coach, you're going to fire the general manager, especially if he's been on the job for a few years. And, of course, Doug Whaley had been and hadn't had much tangible success. And so when Rex Ryan got fired, you would have thought that if Whaley was on the chopping block, he would have been fired right after the season. And then usually teams go and they get their general manager and then they get their head coach. But the Bills went out, of course, hired McDermott, who I think actually is going to be a pretty good head coach. But then they went out and they got Brandon Beane much later in the game, after the draft, after free agents. And so while both are from Carolina, you wonder if they get on the field this year and things don't go well, they go 6-10 or something of that nature, how much of it is going to be McDermott saying, hey, these aren't my guys. These guys were drafted and signed by a previous regime. And Beane sitting there saying, well, I had nothing to do with this. And so I think if things go poorly, there is an opportunity for a little bit of dissension because it's going to be a lot of not me, instead of, hey, we're in this together. We both brought in these guys, and it just didn't work out.
It sounds like the Buffalo Bills, when they get to that 53-man roster, might be one of the most intriguing teams to follow because there are still some guys on that Bills roster who have ties to the former regime, and McDermott and Beane just might say, sorry, guys, we don't need you anymore.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Look, anytime you have a regime change and a coaching change, you're going to change scheme, and so you're going to be looking for different types of personnel. And with the Bills, it's going to be very interesting to see exactly how this all plays out. They're going to be playing a 4-3 now under McDermott. And so, look, there are some guys who are the linchpins of the team. Of course, guys like Marcel Darius, LaShawn McCoy, Sammy Watkins, if he's healthy. But there are some other guys that you don't really know the future of on this team. And it'll be interesting to see. Like, the Bills have been toward the cap limit for a long time. they did this offseason let some higher ticket guys go like Stephon Gilmore. I'm curious to see with the Bills if there are some guys you can save a little cap on if they do it, because in reality, they're not winning the division this year, and it's probably a stretch to make the playoffs just because the AFC is pretty balanced throughout the rest of the division.
Matt Verderame with us right now, 104.5 The Team. One of the stories out there, Matt, is that crab cakes featured into Jeremy Maclin choosing the Ravens over the Bills. Nobody called with like a garbage plate or some buffalo wings? Like what the heck happened there?
First of all, garbage plate, wildly underrated.
Thank you.
I lived in New York for the first 26 years of my life. Love a garbage plate. Move out to Illinois, nobody's ever heard of it. So it is what it is. That being said, crab cakes, they're persuasive. And if I'm Jeremy Maclin, you know what? I would take full advantage of that situation. But I think it's a good signing for the Ravens. I know the Bills, of course, were in the running. There was a report out by Justina Anderson of ESPN that the Eagles were also in the running. That would have been an interesting return. But I think for Maclin, he probably made the right decision. Flacco, the most accomplished of those three potential quarterbacks, and that's a team that desperately needed some wide receiver help. Of course, Steve Smith retiring and Rashad Perriman, the first 2 years of his career, not really developing quite the way Baltimore felt.
I know it's early, and he just got released. Have you heard anything about the potential future for Eric Decker?
He's visiting the Titans today. We'll have to wait and see if that's something that bears out. I think that'd be a good fit for him. Tennessee's a team that could really use another wide receiver. They were aggressive in the draft. Corey Davis fits overall. I believe Decker's wife, country star, that would, of course, make even more sense. I think the Titans are probably the leader in the clubhouse for him. But, again, like the Bills would be a really good target there. I think he would give them a really nice red zone player. He would give them somebody who's a possession receiver, with Watkins being more of that deep threat. But, it remains to be seen. I think the one thing with Buffalo, it just hurts a little bit, is, again, new regime. And, Tyrod Taylor, I like Tyrod Taylor. I'm a fan. But they haven't been the most prolific offense. You wonder if a receiver looks at them and says, I don't know that I can put up the stats I need to put up there.
Matt Verderame from Fansided, man, we appreciate your time.
No problem, anytime.